welcome to the Clio Art Residences. Thank you to all the faith leaders that are standing with us today. Madam President will recognize them, but I would be remiss if I did not recognize my father and my spiritual leader, Pastor T.L. Barrett, Jr. We are thankful for our political leaders that have joined us this morning, our fearless and courageous Governor JB Pritzker and our dynamic County Board President, Toni. Thank you for your leadership during these difficult times of uncertainty. We welcome you to the Clio Art Residence. It is with heavy hearts but optimistic spirits that we have gathered here today. This building is a result of turning a moment of tragedy into an opportunity for triumph. Over 13 years ago, my baby sister, Cleo, Yolande Barrett, a Cook County Deputy Sheriff, fell victim to gun violence. And today we are gathered in this beautiful residential building that bears her name to try to turn another moment of tragedy into an opportunity for triumph. Over these senseless killings of black men like George Floyd and women all over this country. A healing needs to take place in this divided country, and we're going to pray right now to open up this conference. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today with thankful hearts and with joyful spirits. We are thankful for your grace that has befriended us and thankful for your mercy that has extended us. And because of your grace and mercy, we come vowing to become more academic during this coronavirus pandemic. More academic to learn more ways to strengthen our relationship with you so that we may serve you better and be more of a fervent servant to you by being a better blessing to all mankind. We thank you for the blessing this city of Chicago, this county of Cook, and the state of Illinois with the splendid leadership of Cardinal Blase Cupich, the universal countywide Cook political leadership of President Toni Preckwinkle, and the statewide skillful and bold leadership of Governor JB Pritzker. We ask that you bless their efforts to blend their social, political, and spiritual skill for the betterment of the citizens of the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, and the county of Cook. I pray that you will touch the hearts and anoint the minds of those of us who will choose to dedicate ourselves to work harmoniously with them in all of their endeavors, so that we can present you a united, peaceful agenda to unite this state and heal this country. I pray, Lord, to let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I ask these blessings in the name and in the power that is in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Cook County Board, President Toni Preckwinkle.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful to be joined by so many distinguished folks, and I want to acknowledge them. Before I get to the speakers, let me acknowledge first and foremost Pastor T.L. Barrett. It's his congregation that supported this affordable housing development. I came, I think, to the grand opening last summer, and we're very pleased that you were able to host us. Thank you very much, Pastor Barrett. An old friend, Reverend Leslie Sanders. Where did he go? There we are. We're grateful that you joined us. Melanie Winston, on behalf of Pastor Bill Winston, thank you for joining us. Pastor Fleshman, there we are. Pastor Fleshman from the Southland Ministerial Healthcare Network, thank you for joining us. Del Reese Adams, where are you, Del Reese? Head of our Justice Advisory Council. Thank you. And now, of course, I'm grateful for our speakers, Governor Pritzker, Cardinal Cupich, Apostle Carl White, Jahmal Cole of My Block, My Hood, My City, and Princess Shaw, a North Lawndale community activist. Thank you all for joining us. This is a troubling moment in our nation's history. During a pandemic, the worst healthcare crisis in 100 years, over 100,000 people have died, and 40 million people in our nation have filed for unemployment. The murder of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police was a spark that ignited protests there in Minneapolis and across the nation. This murder, this casual, routine murder at the hands of the police, caused an uproar because it was routine. We've seen this before too many times. Black and Latinx and indigenous people across the country have been murdered at the hands of the police, here in Chicago and across the country. George Floyd's murder, this racist, preventable death, was nothing new. And the violence that erupted afterwards is also tragically not new. We must seize this moment and try to bring freedom and justice to every American. But we cannot do this by destroying our communities. We cannot do this by decimating what makes our black and brown communities so strong, so close-knit, even in the face of decades, generations of racist government policies and disinvestment. I'm joined today by Governor Pritzker, by Cardinal Cupich, by faith leaders and activists to urge you to protect our communities. What happened over the past few days in so many parts of Chicago and throughout the county is heartbreaking. Indeed, let us heed Dr. King's call to action, direct action, and peacefully protest this murder. The right to peaceful protest is enshrined in our Constitution. I've marched with many of you. I've marched with Black Lives Matter. I've marched with striking workers. The right to peaceful assembly and protest is one of the most central, one of the most noble tenets of our democracy. I cherish it because it continues to teach me what will truly help this country heal, to find a way forward. I'm very grateful to Governor JB Pritzker for his help and support in ordinary times and his leadership in this extraordinary time. Governor Pritzker.
Thank you very much, President Preckwinkle. Thanks for inviting me to be here with you today and for putting this together. And to the faith and community leaders that are here with us, I am so grateful to stand with you and to share in your vision of our path forward, because we must find a way forward. I do not pretend to know the pain that's experienced by Black America, the pain of knowing that what happened to George Floyd could happen to you or to your child. But I do know that at this moment, so many people are overwhelmed here in the state of Illinois with rage and with passion and with sorrow. That's why, as we look for a way forward, as we look to reform our laws and our system of justice, the leadership that's here today and across the state is so important. Community activism and peaceful organizing and faith must help show the way. We must allow people room to process the grief and to heal, so that we can all sustain our resolve for change. The path ahead will not be easy. It never is, because long-standing systems don't shift on their own. But this is necessary work, as articulated eloquently by so many of this weekend's peaceful demonstrations in communities all across Illinois, across this nation. Real change, structural change, comes from protest paired with policy. That means police reform with genuine investigations, transparency, and accountability. That means taking the justice in criminal justice and making it mean something. That means sustained economic investment in Black and brown communities across our state. Activism is critical, and it will take activism plus action to build ourselves into the state, into the nation that we must strive to become. In Deuteronomy, God implores us, justice, justice shall you pursue. And so we must. And now I'd like to call on Cardinal Cupich.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, President Preckwinkle, for the invitation to be here with you today. Last week, we had a death in the family. Our brother George was murdered. We should mourn. We should be angry and hurt. But we also should heed the wishes of the Floyd family and not dishonor this gentle memory by spreading the sickness of violence. Rather, we need peaceful action to stop the hatred that has ended the lives of countless Black Americans. There is power in peace. Nonviolence has toppled empires and corrected injustice, and it can work again. Remember, mercy is not weakness. Cruelty is not strength. But peaceful action also means justice, setting things right, which is where any discussion of a proportionate response must start. Melodious and smooth words will not do. We urgently need to reform the laws that underpin the organized oppression of establishment of exclusion. We have to pass legislation that guarantees equal opportunity for employment and access to quality education and health care. But better policies and reforms will only be as effective as the conversion of hearts. For what lives in the hearts of those who make and enforce our laws matters as much as the laws themselves. We know there is a contagion spreading across the land. Not only the coronavirus, but racism, and we can stop it. And that begins by making the unwavering commitment today to cleanse our hearts so that it will not infect our homes and our children. And there is no room for bystanders in this moment because this virus threatens us all. Racism is the red thread that runs through the binding that holds America back from reaching its promise, equality and justice for all. Its cost can be measured in lost educational attainment, poor health care outcomes, diminished employment opportunity, but its greatest cost is a toll that it exacts on our national soul. That is why we must resolve to break this heartbreak, to turn this heartbreak into action. And people of faith need to take the lead, for we know that even the darkest deeds can be redeemed by love, and love is what is called for now. But it's not the love of transactional friendships and cheap associations made by the click of a mouse button or an easy retweet. Signpost solidarity will not do. Only the hard work of familiar love will set us on a path toward justice. The love that we read about in the Scripture, the love God has for His children, for every one of us, even when we fail, especially when we fail. God knows how we can fail in our humanity, but even more, God knows how we can build it up. So let us show God. Let us show ourselves. Let us show our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, the ones that we know and the ones we will never meet, how deeply we can love. I'm pleased now to introduce Apostle Carl White.
Thank you very much, Cardinal. I appreciate you so much. To our President of the Cook County Board, Toni Preckwinkle, to our Governor, who is standing here with us. We appreciate all the work you've been doing. In March, when all of this pandemic began to start, our churches ended up closing, and we went online. We found out that the devil had thought he had shut the church down, and he told God, "I've shut your church down." But God smiled and said, "Now I have one in every home." Because we went online, we've been able to help people far beyond the walls of our local church. Then all of a sudden, here we come with another pandemic. George Floyd was killed. It was murder. We saw it. It incited all kinds of feelings in people. It caused us to look deeply into America, systemic racism. I came up in the 60s. My father was a civil rights person on the west side of Chicago. I watched Roosevelt Road burn because of all of the riots and the things that took place. And many of those places have never been rebuilt because the money was not put back in our community. I've experienced police brutality, marching for Black history at Harrison High School, saying that if you don't teach us about us, we're not learning about you. We should have been on the next page, but we're not in the book. And we had to come back to school at 10th period, and all of us had little jobs, and we had to quit those jobs to prove that we really wanted Black history. So systemic racism is deeply rooted, and police tend to treat us differently than they treat the white counterparts. So a lot of this rage has been locked up for a while. And what we're asking now is that you don't destroy your own communities, that you learn how to do it peacefully, and then let's do the things we need to do politically and socially to change the dynamics of our community. There's some good police, and there's some bad police. There's some good pastors and some bad pastors. There's some good politicians and some bad politicians. We all have to do our part to do what's right. If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will they hear from heaven and heal their land. Our land needs a healing, and we're seeking God for that, as well as seeking each other to show love to one another. I challenge our community. Let's not tear up where our seniors have to get medicine from Walgreens, where you have to get food. Those who don't have a car can't get to places. So we got to come together to help those people get food, get medicine, and see about our community. I challenge you that are listening today to come together for a healing of the land. And I bless you with love and happiness. I need to do some introduction now. I need to introduce Brother Jahmal Cole, my block, my hood, my city, a fantastic young man.
So there's a mom in our city that's on a block in a house raising 4 kids. She got a 15-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-month-old. She got a full-time job at the gas station down the block because the manager lets her bring her 3-month-old to work. She can't afford daycare. She get paid $500 every 2 weeks. That's what the gas station says in the budget, right? Her rent is $800 a month. Her light bill is $40 a month. Her gas bill is $100 a month. Because she live in a house, she got to pay the water bill. That's $100 a month. And her phone bill is $100 a month. She only make $1,000 a month. But the rent plus the lights and the gas and the water and the phone, That's $1,140. And that's not including the daily hiccups like I don't think y'all hear me. I said there's a mom in our city that's on a block in the house raising 4 kids. She got a 15-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-month-old. She got a full-time job at the gas station down the block because the manager let her bring her 3-month-old to work. She can't afford daycare. She get paid $500 every 2 weeks. That's what the gas station says in the budget. Her rent is $800 a month. Her light bill is $40 a month. Her gas bill is $100 a month. She live in a house, so she got to pay the water bill. That's $100 a month. And her phone bill is $100 a month. She only make $1,000 a month. But the rent plus the lights and the gas and the water and the phone, that's $1,140. That's not including the daily hiccups. She had a job, but y'all burnt it down. She don't got no job no more. Jamie, 15, Malachi, 7, Keela, she 5, Alea, she only 3 months. What's she gonna do? Hey, Jamie taking matters into his own hands now. The young men that stand in front of the corner store every morning, he talking to them now. Look, to all the young people listening right now, look, I don't want to devalue how y'all feeling. I know a lot of people right now saying, hey, I understand how y'all feeling, but I understand how y'all feeling, but don't do this, don't do that. I ain't going to say that. I'm going to say, I understand how y'all feeling, and there's a way that we can resist constructively. Busting up businesses like gas stations in your own community, that's not intelligent, right? These is gas stations and mom and pop shops that's supporting football teams and supporting basketball teams. These is gas stations and mom and pop shops that's supporting, they donate water to the school when they ain't got no air conditioning, right? They paying for newsletters for block clubs and community groups, right? Listen, there's a way to resist constructively. Also, there's a big difference between force and violence. Protesting peacefully is forceful. I don't know who's saying it's soft. Protesting peacefully is forceful. You can put pressure on institutions to address issues we care about. Force is very powerful. Violence, that's when you're violating somebody's property. That's not intelligent. Force can be powerful. Violence is always violent, right? I want to let the small business owners in Chicago know, please go to our website, formyblock.org. We know you're hurting right now. We have a small business relief fund, and we want to support y'all right now. Help y'all with graffiti removal. Help y'all pick up some of that glass. Get some small contractors into these businesses, right? And the young people, if y'all want to resist constructively, go to formyblock.org. We want to hire 100 young people to help clean up these storefronts, to help fix some of this looting. Be a part of it. If you really want to be an activist in Chicago, if you really want to change systems, I want you to ask yourself 15 words. If you want to be a leader in Chicago right now, listen, these 15 words will make you a politician in a few months, right? If you want to be a leader in your community, understand these 15 words I'm about to say to you. Write it down. I want you to ask yourself 15 words. Those 15 words are, what's something simple I can do that'll have a positive impact on my block? What's something simple I can do that'll have a positive impact on my block, right? And if you start with the simple things, I'm gonna go get me a broom and a dustpan and go sweep up some of the glass. I'm gonna write a letter to my neighbor to see how they doing. I'm gonna make a phone call to a senior, see how they, what's something simple you can do to change everything? And if you start with the simple things, you can develop the muscle it takes to take on bigger challenges. Again, go to our website, formyblock.org. We're here to support y'all. And right now I wanna introduce a third-generation North Lawndale resident, activist, a friend of mine, Princess Shaw. Thank y'all.
Good afternoon, everyone. That's Mr. Jahmal. That's going to be very hard to come behind there, young man. But yes, as he stated, I'm a third-generation Lawndalian. When coming up, there was no North-South Lawndale. There was no East-West Garfield Park. But I'm out here every day, and I see the faces of these individuals that are looting and rioting and have really no direction. And I say it takes, as my grandparents told me when I was growing up, they seen this same exact thing happen, like the other young man said, in 1968. All of Roosevelt Road was burned down. All of Madison Street was, there used to be a gold blast on the corner of Madison and Pulaski. So that's why I said, and again, that's my word, third generation Lawndalian. I have 2 kids that I raised in Lawndale. Amongst the criminal activity, the turmoil that's going on, but this is generational. That's why I'm bringing this point up. This is something that happens decade after decade after decade, and I'm appealing to the young people now, like, this is your chance to be able to stop this generational curse that's been going on for years and years and years. It's time to start rebuilding. We've seen enough tearing down. We've seen enough things being not enough for us or just barely getting us by, as Jahmal was saying. That young lady, she needs some place to work. You have people that don't have any place. I have at least 15 seniors because the Walgreens on Roosevelt and Holman got looted, are not going to have a way to get their medication. I'm going to see if I can pair up with some of these people here, but that's something exclusive. In our black communities, high blood pressure, diabetes are some of the biggest things that are deterrents that help kill us off early. So I'm just begging and pleading, can you please just think about a different way about going about this? There is a different way that we can do this. There's a different way that we can appeal to people and make them understand. We know you're angry. We know you're upset. This has been going on way too long. And then George Floyd was probably the breaking point, the last straw that broke the camel's back. But let it be the last straw that broke the camel's back in a positive way, something that we can do in order to attest to politicians, even unfortunately the president, and show him that we can be better than what we've been seeing in the past years and decades prior to this. So now I'm gonna pass this back on over to our lovely and great president.
Thank you very much. Before I take questions, thank you, Princess. Before I take questions, I want to acknowledge David Jones and Jen McElroy, who are our sign language interpreters. And now we'll take your questions. We'll begin, Nick, in the room, and who's that? Yes? John Garcia, thank you. I don't recognize anybody in their masks, so you got to. Jahmal, do you want to talk about social media?
It's a great question. It's a big problem. A lot of people don't know who their alderman is or who their state representative is, and they're not watching the news right now. So we need to meet them where they're at. So what we've been doing is standing in front of businesses that have been being looted and just protesting peacefully and just leading with love. So when the young people approach, we know how to talk to them because we work with them already. And how you doing? And we don't want you losing your own neighborhood, and that helps. So we need more community leaders to post up on your block, post up in your neighborhood, and post up somewhere. And just when the young people come, just let them know there's ways to direct that or channel that energy towards something positive.
Tori? Thank you, Jahmal.
Thanks, Jahmal. In addition to that, there are several summer job initiatives that are going on right now. You have over 30,000 young people who are being paid starting July 1st, but we're already engaging those young people. And so go to your Zoom, have chat meetings with your young people. Don't wait until July 1st. Start it right now. If you have a hold on your young people, you can get to those young people right now.
Thank you. Yes? Vince from Channel 2.
Yeah, the question is from Vince at Channel 2 and is directed for the department.
All right, Cardinal. Thank you.
Cardinal Blase wants to know, beyond prayer, what role can our churches play in righting the wrongs of racial discrimination and prejudice? Is the Archdiocese considering any new outreach or educational programs?
I think a number of ways. We're already active in this. Right now, of course, many of our parishes are suffering like the rest of the community just in the food distribution that has been disrupted because of the looting and the violence. And so we're going to continue to that, talking to some of the pastors in the places. We want to make sure that people have access in this time of the pandemic just for basic needs for food. The other is, I've always believed that one of the greatest anti-poverty and also equalizers in society is our educational program that we have in the Catholic Church. We have nearly 200 schools. Many of the people that we educate are not Catholic, and we do so because it's part of our mission to give people an opportunity for the future. We have a very high graduation rate. We also look for ways in which they can go on to college and be productive citizens. So we're going to continue to do that, but we also need to be advocates, as I've said here today. We need to raise our voice so that there really are policies and legislation that's passed that helps people today, and that is an important witness that we offer.
Our churches are already feeding and clothing and seeing about the elderly. We do all kinds of community things. We're trying to make sure that we can connect our youth with youth in the street so that those youth can receive some of the kind of teaching that we're teaching in our churches. And we're finding ourselves working in health care, seeing about mental health, because some people that are in the street that have been there a long time and homeless and not having things are going through mental stress. And so there's a lot of mental things that we're dealing with, working with Grand Prairie Services and with other people to make sure that we can give mental care as well. So we're not just inside the walls, but our community is really blessed to have so many churches that are doing outreach.
A couple of weeks ago, we were at the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and to speak to what both the Cardinal and Apostle White said, many of our distribution sites for the Greater Chicago Food Depository are religious institutions, so we're very grateful to them. And Cardinal, as you know, I taught in public, private, and parochial schools, and I want to thank the Archdiocese for its investment in our young people of all religions. Yes? First of all, the county has a very small police force, and that police force serves 100,000 people in unincorporated Cook County. So, and that's, we're very grateful, actually. I know that the sheriff's police were in Berwyn and Cicero and Maywood, because I talked to local unit of government leaders this morning around our emergency operation efforts, and they expressed their appreciation to the Sheriff's Police and the Illinois State Police for their support for local law enforcement officials. Frankly, that's all I know about, and that's all I'm prepared to speak to. Now, Nick, do you have other people on the line here? And if yes. For the governor, excuse me, could you wait? Could you wait just a minute? We've got a question here with us, and then we'll take the questions on the phone. Governor?
Your call for police reform, our state representative for Hyde Park is calling for specific acts of reform. Would you consider calling a special session of the General Assembly to address proposals to get something moving on?
As you know, I've been reluctant to call a special session as the governor because it really is the legislature in this time of COVID-19 that needs to agree that they need to get together, because otherwise you'll have many representatives, senators who won't show up because there's frankly fear of getting together in these large groups. Now they've proven that they can, and so that's encouraging. There's no doubt about it. But I will say this, that what's very important to me is that we establish an agenda that's led in part by the very peaceful protesters that are out on the streets that were there protesting last night, the night before, and the night before. The folks who are there with legitimate grievance, the things that I was talking about when I stood here just moments ago. So we do need to make reform, and I am in favor of doing things on a statewide basis and also encouraging change in the city of Chicago and municipalities across the state. Yep.
Both said that they're grateful for the help of the National Guard.
Well, let's start with they're a highly trained force, but remember what they're trained for. They're trained to go to war, right? National Guard, really most of the training that they get is training that you would give to Army, Air Force, et cetera. We do have military police, but it's a different kind of training than Chicago PD, for example. So, look, we reacted to the request by Chicago PD, as well as some other places around the state, to provide backup, to provide support, and that's indeed what the National Guard has had as a limited mission based upon what's been asked for by municipalities. It wouldn't be appropriate for the National Guard to come in and take over somehow. And Chicago PD is doing a good job. I realize that there have been challenges over the last number of nights. I think there's been learning that's taken place. But the National Guard, I just want to say, I mean, these are some of the best people that you can have backing up our local law enforcement. I also want to just say about our state police. They are rapid reaction force. They have the ability. They are frontline police. They understand. They can arrest people. And indeed, where there has been a flare-up, whether it's in the city of Chicago or a few nights ago in Aurora or last night in Naperville, where 86 state police went to react to the problems in Naperville, we have the ability between those two forces, and it's more than 900 men and women, to react to where the need is. And so I would reject the notion that National Guard are not well trained. They're simply not trained as frontline police officers.
Governor and President Preckwinkle, we have a question for both of you from Rachel Hinton from the Sun-Times. Have you both visited various parts of the county and state, and what are you hearing from people?
Before I answer the question, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Commissioner Bill Lowry. There we are. Thank you, who represents this district. We're grateful to have you, Commissioner. I've been frankly around in my own neighborhood and dismayed to see that our local pharmacies have been looted. To go back to the point that Princess made, I think, these are the places that our seniors depend on for their meds. And in many of our black and brown communities, we know that we have disproportionate numbers of people who suffer from diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, the things that make you particularly susceptible to COVID-19. And it's really important, of course, that people have access to their medications, and when our pharmacies, our Walgreens are looted and closed, people don't have access to that medication. And that, of course, is a potential tragedy for the individuals who are denied access to their meds. This is troubling, and I spent yesterday at the Emergency Operations Center hearing about the looting, some of which was spontaneous and out of pain and anger and the chaos in communities, and others of which was just organized criminal activity. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So I'd be happy to have the governor speak to this matter.
So I have been to various parts of the city of Chicago during this last 4 or 5 days, and I've also been in very close touch with members of the General Assembly, the challenges going on in districts all across the state of Illinois. As I mentioned, there was a flare-up in Aurora, there was one in Rockford, one in Naperville. It's happened in a few places around the state where looting has been taking place. And our state police, again, have been just phenomenal. Remember, they're a 1,900 force covering an entire state. The city of Chicago has many, many more people on the street as police officers to cover itself. There are local law enforcement in each of the places where state police operates, but state police has a backup function and, as I say, rapid reaction function. So I'm very proud of the work that they're doing. Now, following on comments by President Preckwinkle, some of the most heartbreaking things that I've seen are the small businesses that just now have had the ability to reopen after this 2.5, almost 3 months of coronavirus, and then this comes along. I mean, just at the moment when they're reopening, many of them spent money to get ready to reopen, and now their windows are broken, their inventory is gone. In some cases, some of those small businesses may not come back. We have to rebuild. We have to rebuild. We needed to rebuild before this took place. Now we have to make double the effort. And that means private dollars need to come to the fore, and the public dollars that we just passed in a budget focused on small business rebuilding. We need to move that up. We need to make sure that we're taking care of our small businesses, because we want to bring back not only the entrepreneurs, but also the jobs that they represent.
Are there other questions on the phone? Are there questions on the phone?
Anyone online with questions? Anything else? Oh, here's one from, we have one for the governor.
Hey, Nick.
Jahmal Cole.
Hold on just a moment. What, yes?
Jahmal Cole.
If you wait just a moment. Yes, go ahead.
For the governor, Jahmal Cole just promoted my block manager, my city's small business relief fund. Like some of your personal wealth to that fund. What can the state
Jahmal knows that I support what he is doing, and I'll continue to do that. And I would say, along with, I don't want to take away from Jahmal, but I will say that we have both the Chicago COVID Relief Fund, the Illinois COVID Relief Fund, both of which are continuing to raise money. I think between the two of them, there's more than $50 million that's there, for much of it for local organizations as well as small businesses. And you know, again, I've been a significant supporter of those efforts, and I'll continue to support Jahmal.
Two more. What can the state do to help businesses get back on their feet, especially given that business insurance policies don't necessarily cover events like looting and mass stock?
Well, we did a lot of that in our budget that was recently passed, hundreds of millions of dollars that'll go to small businesses across the state. And again, there's a lot of private dollars that are being brought to bear. Indeed, I had a conversation last night with a private giver that is looking to do something to support small business rebuilding in the city of Chicago.
And one from Cranes for the governor. What money is there for the state to invest in communities hit hardest within the state budget?
Yeah, there's no doubt we have challenges in our state budget. I think everybody knows, though, that we're looking to the federal government, as all states are right now, to make sure that they can support the basic functions of our state, not just the social services, but support for small businesses and all the other things that we were building on before COVID-19 came along. We have lost revenues in our state. And we need to rebuild those coffers in order for us to deliver the services on the ground that people need and the supports that small businesses need. And the last thing I'll just say is that, look, the last 5 days have at least demonstrated to everybody who wasn't paying attention already that we have systemic racism that also has to be addressed in a state budget. I often say that budgets are a moral document. They're a reflection of our values. And we're the land of Lincoln. We're the land of Barack Obama. Our values, I think, are clear to people. We need to express them in our budget. This last budget does express those values, but over the last 5 days, I think it's been brought to the fore that our communities, our black and brown communities that have been neglected, are the ones that we need to focus upon.
I think, just a second, if I may, I think there was one question on the phone. Let's take that. Who did we miss? Apparently we lost him. Could I ask Pastor Fleischman, did I say it right, Fleischman? Yes, ma'am. Could you close us out with prayer, please? And again, our thanks.
I texted Nick. You're okay.
Okay, thank you. Come on, Pastor Fleischman.
I heard the question that was asked earlier about prayer. What can be done outside of prayer? I believe that prayer is the essence. I believe that prayer actually activates faith, and faith without works is dead. So we're in a season of rebuilding. We're just asking God now to bless us as we go forth. Gracious and eternal Father, we thank you for all that has even transpired now, because we know that it is times such as this where you show up and you show and you deem yourself worthy, and we give you all the glory, we give you all the honor, and we give you all the praise. Now, God, we're asking that you will touch each and every government official. God, that you will give them the courage that is necessary to go beyond any barriers that have already been set previously and to rebuild this city, this state, this county. God, touch them in a special way. God, we ask your blessings upon our people. God, touch them now and speak unto them. And God, we ask that you loose a peace that shall surpass our understanding. But God, as we go forward, your word says, as we draw nigh unto you, that you will draw nearer unto us. And so, God, in this season, we know that greater is still yet to come. In every season, whenever there was rebuild, there was great things that followed the rebuild. So we look with great hope for a great future. And we thank you because your word says in all things, give thanks. We thank you in your name. Amen.